In Liberia, West Africa, on a string of tiny islands, lives the legacy of an extraordinary medical experiment. In the 1970s, researchers from the New York Blood Center came here to search for a hepatitis vaccine. Taking chimpanzees from the wild, they infected them with hepatitis.
Reading the stories of each individual chimp is just overwhelming.
But these medical breakthroughs came at a cost, both for the chimpanzees and those who kept them.
It was just crazy, man.
The surviving chimps were left on isolated islands. But what happened to them next is perhaps even more shocking.
At the beginning, I thought, oh no, no way. Would an organization do that?
This is the story of the chimps abandoned on the islands and the people still fighting to keep them alive. The 1970s gave rise to ambitious animal experiments. Among these was the New York Blood Center's vaccine research. They needed subjects that could also carry human diseases, and they found them here, in Liberia.
When I came, I met roughly about 100 and some more chimps. Most of them were bought from people who pushed chimpanzee. Because at the time, they all knew and got the news that they were buying chimps here for research. You know, New York Blood Center were buying chimps. So then, people took advantage of it to go after the chimps in the wild, to kill either the mother or the father to get the baby. They taught me how to tie the chimps. When they are in captivity, sometimes if you take food to them, they don't even want to see you. So then when you are passing by the cage, they will try to grab you by your shirt through the bar. They're all going to scream, because they see me, you know. And actually they used to hit me.
Joseph worked at the lab for nearly 30 years. But by now, the public was starting to question the ethics of experimenting on our closest animal relatives.
Chimpanzees do not do well in captivity. They develop physical ailments all the time. Many of the research chimps had chronic illnesses, chronic infections. They'd get injuries that would never heal.
By 2005, there were already successful hepatitis vaccines, and the Blood Center ended its research here. Raised in captivity and infected with disease, the surviving chimpanzees could never be returned to the forest. Instead, they were retired to islands to live out their lives.
We took a fresh crew up, and we used to go walking with them on the island. We were really enjoying being with them, you know, in the wild.
Watch out, watch out, watch out! Watch out!
Without food and water on the islands, Joseph and his team were kept on to provide for the chimps. And as they settled into their new home, his relationship with one chimp in particular began to change.
Samantha been through all the research from the beginning to the end. And Samantha is a very smart chimp. She's much more happy on the island than where she was in the cage. When they were in the cages, they were barred between day and night. They couldn't reach me, and I couldn't reach them. But after they were taken on the island, and after some months, when they have trust me, that I'm not going to harm the animal like that in them, that I'm not going to bring them back to where they came from, and they started to trust me, and I started to trust them too.
A big outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus in West Africa has killed more than 670 people.
The chimps, they have been abandoned by New York Blood Center after using them in the research for 30 years. So they left and they're gone, and there's nobody to care for the chimps. They said after they start get their severance pay, they are free to walk away. They were not fed because there was no money to buy food for them. They had no water to drink, nothing to eat. The oldest one, Samantha, was almost at the verge of death.
After 4 days without food or water, Joseph found a way to help.
I decided to take my own money from my pocket. We worked for consecutive 4 months without pay. I encouraged everybody to stay, and everybody stood by me. And I said, I know there will be somebody to come in to help. Because those chimps, they have lives in them like us.
As news of the abandoned chimps reached the Humane Society, they sent experts Jim and Jenny Desmond to help Joseph save the chimpanzees.
New York Blood Center left at the height of the Ebola crisis. We will never know if that was intentional or not. They left saying that the Liberian government was responsible for chimps like Samantha, except they knew very well that the Liberian government had no money or funds or resources or capacity to take care of Samantha. So she was left to starve to death. I have a picture of her the first day I saw her. It's really hard to think about. She looks like an emaciated prisoner. You can see her ribs were sticking out. All her skin was just dripping down, and she was screaming. If I hadn't taken a picture, it would just be burned into my mind.
Jenny also uncovered details of what Samantha had gone through.
When we went through her file, it was really devastating to read through the fact that she'd been tranquilized and knocked down over 450 times. She'd had over 150 biopsies. Some of those were wedge biopsies where they actually removed part of her liver. On this one, you can see gave birth to baby boy. The baby boy was born into the breeding colony, and the next day the baby boy was put into the research protocols. And you'll see that the baby boy was dead, baby boy removed from cage. I think people like Joseph, because he was so close with the chimps, he saw that what he was doing wasn't nice, and he saw their reactions, and he felt their reactions.
They remember me when they were in captivity. You know, they remember me very well.
But now they think of you differently?
No. They still remember me the same way they used to see me when they were in captivity.
Chimpanzees are just like us. They are extremely social. Besides the physical ailments the chimps suffered, they suffered psychologically immensely, beyond what we could comprehend. The result of that is you see a lot of stereotypical behaviors like aggression, rocking, chimps who pick their hair out. Even just in the 2 years we've been here, I've seen some of the chimps who had some of these stereotypical behaviors stop doing them, which is a really beautiful thing to see. I see those chimps grooming each other. I see them swinging in the tree when we come. That's the big reward of being here, is at least these chimps are getting proper care now. I don't think it's just the nutrition. I mean, think of a human in a prison cell or a human who's sick in a hospital. They may need the food, but really when somebody comes and visits them every day, it can help them heal.
I know, and I know I'm going to die before all the chimps die. That for sure. That for sure.
I'd say you see the chimp's demeanor change. I've seen Joseph's demeanor change over the time we've been here. He's happy to come to work. You can see it in his eyes, you can see it in his walk, you can see it in the way he talks about the chimps. Joseph is able to say sorry to the chimps for what he did. Yeah, that's a pretty amazing part of the story.